Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, United States Senator Jim Moran, Senator Roger Marshall, Jack Potter, the CEO of the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority. We are here to brief you on the very tragic events of this evening, where we know a passenger plane coming to the airport here collided with a military helicopter. Our fire department, DC Fire and EMS, supported by fire departments and police departments from across the Washington metropolitan region, are executing a rescue operation in the Potomac River. They are working diligently in very dark and cold conditions, cold water, to execute this rescue operation. We have had the opportunity to be briefed by American Airlines officials. I'm told that American Airlines leadership is on the way to Washington as well. And officials are in the airport talking to families now. We do have a 1-800 number where families should contact us, should contact American Airlines for more information, and we will be providing that information shortly. I am going to turn to a number of officials to provide as much information as we can this evening, and we expect to have more frequent briefings at daylight. So with that, I'm going to turn to Secretary Duffy.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. I think for all of us, we want to extend our thoughts and prayers to those individuals who were impacted by the events tonight, their families. We know this is a very difficult time for all of them. I want to join the mayor and everyone here to extend our thank you to the first responders who, again, in very difficult situations and environments, are out there searching and attempting to rescue. Tonight, I spoke with President Trump and his team in the Situation Room. I had a conversation with Secretary Pete Hegseth as well, and then with the Kansas delegation and the mayor and others in leadership, as well as Governor Youngkin from Virginia and Governor Kelly from Kansas. From the Department of Transportation and FAA's perspective, we are going to offer full support to those on the ground, to the mayor, but also to the NTSB, who is going to be conducting the investigation in this matter. We are going to provide all the support that's necessary. Mayor.
Thank you. So with that, I want to ask Chief John Johnnelly from DC Fire and EMS to provide an update.
Good evening, everyone. I'm John Donnelly, Chief of DC Fire and EMS. This evening at 8:48, an alert was sounded, initiating a large regional response to a report of an aircraft crash on approach to the airport. This response includes first the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority's Fire Department, the District of Columbia Fire Department, the Metropolitan Police Department, and the U.S. Park Police to respond into the area and to sort that out. At 8:58, the first units arrived on the scene and found an aircraft in the water and began rescue operations. This incident has grown. There's currently about 300 responders working. We have boats from all throughout the region, police and fire boats. We have a mutual aid agreement in Washington, D.C., the National Capital Region Mutual Aid Agreement administered by the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments, and we're all operating under that. We're operating under a unified command. Everybody's together. So we also have requested state police helicopters from Maryland, and the Coast Guard helicopter is working. So this is a state and federal response as well. U.S. Coast Guard's got some boats in the water as well. So it's a highly complex operation. The conditions out there are extremely rough for the responders. It's cold. They're dealing with relatively windy conditions. Wind is hard out on the river. So they're out there working. We're doing everything we can to keep them safe. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to the mayor.
Thank you. In Chief Bonnet from MY.
I'm Rick Bonnet, Fire Chief of MWA Fire and Rescue. Our unit, as Chief Donnelly already alluded to, at 2048, we received an alert from the FAA tower of an aircraft incident involving a commercial aircraft and a helicopter. Our units immediately responded and deployed 3 boats and immediately called for mutual aid resources. Again, as Chief Donnelly said, it's an active operation that's going to last many hours as we continue to work through recovery efforts and rescue operations. This will be ongoing for quite a while. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families. And
hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. I just want to tell you what's happening. There's been a mid-air collision in Washington, D.C. between a passenger plane and a military helicopter with 3 soldiers on board. And there's a rescue operation going on in it's freezing cold in the Potomac River. Anyway, I will go back to the press conference, but then I'll be showing you. I just cannot believe that this happened. Just seems incredible.
That we want to be here to be helpful. And we're praying that our responders are safe and the folks who are on that flight are recovered. The circumstance I would describe is that I know that flight. I've flown it many times myself. I lobbied American Airlines to begin having a direct nonstop flight service to DCA. That flight has been in existence about a year. And it is certainly true that in Kansas and in Wichita in particular, we're going to know people who are on this flight, know their family members, know somebody. So this is a very personal circumstance as well as an official response. And again, we will do everything we can to make certain that we're supportive of the rescue efforts, and we'll do everything we can to make certain that our subcommittee and Congress is engaged in what needs to take place following the outcome of this evening and this month's kind of investigation. I've talked to NTSB, I've talked to the White House, I've talked to the Department of Defense, and I've talked to the CEO of American Airlines, and there is all of us pulling together for the best outcome possible. I'm honored to be here with my colleague, Senator Marshall, as we try to make certain that we care for those certainly back in Kansas that were on that flight. But it's a reminder that there are people here in Washington, D.C., in this region, in Virginia and Maryland, and many places else that fly to and from Kansas. And so we're rooting and supporting all those, regardless of where you're from. And Mayor, I appreciate the gathering here for us to try to provide information to those in Kansas and across your city. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you, Senator Moran and Mayor, Secretary. You know, when one person dies, it's a tragedy, but when many, many, many people die, it's an unbearable sorrow. It's a heartbreak beyond measure. And I know Senator Moran and I are here just to say we care. We wish that there was more we could do, but unfortunately, there doesn't seem much at this time. I want the folks to back home to just know that we care, that we love them, and that this is a time when we'll have to join arms together and help each other out. We've been through things like this before, through tornadoes and floods and things, but it's really hard when you lose, probably over 60 Kansans simultaneously. And I don't want to forget the pilots and the flight attendants, are doing, do their job, and the military personnel we lost. All those lives are so valuable, and it is such a tragedy that we lost them. I think often in times like this, I try to find a scripture that, is apropos, and this is from the book of Psalms. It says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." Certainly we're crushed in spirit tonight. We mourn with the families who lost loved ones, and we truly are joining them in prayer and wrapping our arms around them in love and compassion. thanks for everybody for coming out tonight. Thank you for your thoughts and your prayers.
So certainly I speak for the people of Washington, 700,000 of us who are extremely sorry for the families who are experiencing loss tonight. And so we want you to know that we will continue to work with American Airlines to share information as frequently as possible and make sure that we're getting accurate information out to the public. But my sorrow for all of the people and crew on the plane and our military personnel on the helicopter is very deep. I do want to turn to Jack Potter, who is the CEO of our Airports Authority, responsible for Reagan National Airport and Dulles International Airport, to talk to you about how the airport responded and what's going to happen next.
Good evening. As was said, I'm Jack Potter, the President and CEO of the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority. Thank you all for being here tonight and under these very, very grim circumstances. First of all, I want to let you know that we're providing support to all the families who are involved. American Airlines has established a phone number for them to reach out. That's been published, but let me repeat it. It's 1-800-679-8215. So families of folks that were on the plane are asked to contact them. We did have folks who were at the airport to pick up loved ones. And so American has set up a center in their in their lounge at the north end of the airport. And we've directed the families there. And there are folks there counselors there to work with the families. We did have aircraft that were in the air. They were diverted to Dulles Airport, some 19 aircraft. We had personnel, United and others had personnel. We want to thank WMATA for extending their hours on the Metro to make sure that those folks were accommodated. Right now, as was said earlier by the chief, we're in a rescue mode. We will continue in that rescue mode. I want to thank all of the mutual aid responders, all the counties, the districts, folks from Maryland and Virginia. Everybody's on site doing the best they can, and numerous boats out in the water right now. NTSB is on site. I want to thank all of the folks behind me, the secretary, the mayor, the two senators for all of their support. And we're going to continue to work through the night. I do want to make an announcement. People are, concerned about what's going to happen in the morning. Reagan National Airport will be closed until 11 o'clock. That's when the first flights will take off. But we're going to continue to do our best and work through this situation over the course of the night. And we hope to have more news as it develops. But for right now, it's a very difficult situation out there with the cold. It's very dark, but there are numerous boats out there. There are dive teams out there. So again, we'll continue to work this situation, and I'll turn it back to the mayor. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that update. And you've heard that in the National Capital Region, the District of course is Washington, D.C. is at the center, but we are a close region. We have heard from the governors of Maryland and Virginia, the mayor of the city of Baltimore, all who have sent us personnel to help in the rescue operations. Last thing I'll note is just to our local viewership, and just please let our first responders do their work. Try to let our vehicles get to scenes and through scenes. We don't want anybody else to get hurt because of moving vehicles, okay? So we will be able to take a few questions. There's not a lot that we can say. We won't be able to say anything about an investigation. As you know, once fire and EMS completes the rescue operation, then the investigation goes over to the National Transportation Safety Board. And I'm sure the Safety Board, NTSB, will provide information about when they will be briefing about an investigation. So we'll take a few. Yes.
can you confirm that both aircraft are in the water, and perhaps Chief Donnelly can explain what's involved in conducting an operation like this in these conditions?
Yes, both aircraft are in the water. The focus now is rescuing people, and that's what all of our personnel are focused on. And Chief, I think he's given a pretty good description, but if there's anything else you want to add, Chief?
I would just say that the boats are out doing searches. We have divers on both aircraft, and they're searching the aircraft at this point.
Right. Yes.
Have any survivors been found, and how many bodies have been recovered?
All we can confirm tonight is the number of people on each aircraft, 64 people on the American Airlines plane and 3 people on the military helicopter. When we can't provide any more information about recovery
The
efforts.
2 people have talked about lost loved ones. So how do you know that there have been people who have lost loved ones?
I didn't say I didn't know people had lost loved ones. I said we can't talk about any of the recovery efforts in specific tonight. Yes.
Secretary Duffy.
So, I'll call on who's next. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. Will this affect operations at Dulles and BWI? Will the Potomac River traffic be closed to boats?
Yes. And so Jack has talked about, Jack, can you talk about Dulles? I'm not sure we can talk about BWI, but we can talk about Dulles.
Right. There is no impact at BWI or at Dulles. As I said earlier, our airport here, Ronald Reagan National Airport, will be closed until 11 o'clock. Obviously, that will be fluid. We'll learn more, but we wanted to advise passengers who might be coming to the airport in the morning that we will be closed until at least 11 o'clock.
A question for Secretary Duffy. A question for Secretary Duffy.
Yeah, 1 second. You're next.
Hi, Mayor. Thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
So, just other than the current situations, like we know the water is extremely cold and it's very dark outside. Although Senator is saying that there are numerous boats in the water, but what's the biggest challenges for the rescue team? What best scenario we can expect in the coming few hours till
Sure.
morning?
So the challenges are access. The water that we're operating in is about 8 feet deep. There is wind, there is pieces of ice out there. So it's just dangerous and hard to work in. And because there's not a lot of lights, you're out there searching every square inch of space to see if you can find anybody. The divers are doing the same thing in the water. The water is dark, it is murky, and that is a very tough condition for them to dive in. The question about the river, we'll make that decision later. The Coast Guard's on scene, and I would expect that it's not a high use time in the river, and we should not expect to have commercial recreational traffic on the river tomorrow.
Okay, 3 questions. 1, 2, 3.
Secretary Duffy, have you been in touch with the air traffic controllers who were in the tower at the time of the crash?
I have not.
You have not. And second question, this is your first several hours in this position. What are your thoughts? What are you feeling right now?
My focus is on those who are impacted on this flight. And again, I've been secretary for a little over a day, and the tragedy that we're going to deal with this recovery, I think is touching everyone's hearts, whether it's here in the greater DC area or in Kansas. And again, I think everyone here is thinking and praying for those who potentially have lost a loved one. And thank you.
Okay, your question?
Can any of you give us any sense about how an accident like this could have happened so close to the airport, right in the heart of DC? There have been reports of the DCA tower contacting the helicopter moments before the crash to ask if they had sight of the aircraft, and apparently the helicopter reported that it did have sight of an aircraft. Is it possible that it had the wrong aircraft in sight? Do you have any sense of what went wrong in those final moments?
I know that the National Transportation Safety Board in its investigation will be able to search on all of those questions. We wouldn't be able to talk about that tonight. Yes.
2 parts for Secretary Duffy. The first thing you were talking about when you were in the Situation Room with the President and Pete Hegseth both being there. Can you tell us more about the President's initial reaction to this, as well as Pete Hegseth, given this was a military helicopter?
So I was not in the Situation Room. I did have a conversation with the Situation Room where the President was located, as well as with Secretary Hegseth. We were exchanging information. I would just note that not just the local team, but the federal team has performed very well in this crisis. I know the president is incredibly concerned about what's happened here today. I'm sure we'll continue to hear more from him, and I'll continue to consult with him and Secretary Hegseth.
When it comes to the resources that you would be able to provide on the federal level, do you feel like you're getting what you need?
Absolutely. The president has committed to this team and to the NTSB through the DOT that we will provide all resources necessary as we go through this recovery, but also the support from FAA and DOT as the NTSB investigates.
Mr. Secretary, do we know the condition of these aircraft? Are they whole? Are they split? Are they pieces?
Again, I don't think we can comment on that. Our focus is on getting the passengers and crew out of the water.
And just one more clarification, because earlier we got guidance that DCA was going to be shut down at least until Friday at 5 a.m. I just heard
11
now
a.m.
it's 11 a.m. tomorrow. Tomorrow. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we can take a few more questions. A question here, and here. Yeah.
Mayor Bowser, can you just confirm, has anybody been transported to?
Again, I can't say anything about the rescue operation right now. Who was next? Yes.
Yeah, Chief Donnelly, can you speak a little bit more about the unified command who leads this phase of the rescue and recovery? At what point do you then change phases? And can you describe to us the scene as best you can when first responders first arrived?
So I happened to be listening to the radio this evening when the call came out. I listened to the responders come in, and the initial response, they were very professional trying to locate this. This is, if you can imagine, the river is a large black spot at night with no lights on it, except for a few buoy lights. So they were out there looking. The boats pretty quickly were able to locate one of the aircraft and get there. So that's what's going on right now. Everybody's working on that. We will reevaluate where we are with the rescue operation in the morning when we get a better sense of it, but we are still out there working, and we're going to continue that throughout the night.
Do you have a sense that there are survivors?
We don't know yet, but we're working.
Is any part of the search happening over land?
No, we're all in the water.
Yes. Oh, you got a question. Somebody didn't get a question. Hold on. Yes.
I just wanted to ask, do you have an estimate yet on how long the recovery efforts will take?
Chief.
So experiences like this we expect to continue our operations in the fire department for multiple days. And then I would expect the investigation goes longer than that.
Okay, you didn't get a question, and you were next, I think.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. My question is, do we have any plan to prevent future crash or future accidents? Do we have any like to reform the airport control to calm those people who are flying in the next few days? And also, how long the rescue is gonna last? Are we gonna stop rescue after tomorrow 11 a.m.? Like diverse team, because they are still in the golden hours now.
No, I mean, I think you just heard the chief said we're going to be out there as long as it takes. And we're obviously trying to get to people as soon as possible, but we are going to recover our fellow citizens. Yes.
This is for the chief and Secretary Duffy. How do you balance the search and rescue operation with preserving the scene for the investigation that's now underway?
So from the fire department's point of view, we are always going to put people first. But I don't think I think our operations, because we have a unified command, we are all working together, and the NTSB is in contact with us, and we will work together to make sure that if there's crucial evidence that it's preserved. And that's something we do every day with our police department on crime scenes and things. So life comes first and everything else is after that.
Okay, last question. Yep.
Secretary Duffy, I just want to ask, I know it's early, but are there any immediate actions that the FAA should take to prevent helicopters and commercial airplanes from getting too close to one another?
So obviously there'll be a review of what happened here tonight. And after the FAA studies what happened, we will take appropriate action if necessary to modify flight paths and permissions.
Do you have any more details about the helicopter mission with the Black Hawk and Mirabel? Have you heard directly from President Trump?
I spoke with the president's national security advisor, and I have not talked to the president yet. And I do not know what the mission was. So let me close by saying again, thank you to the members of the press to help us get information out to the families. The American Airlines number is 800-679-8215, 800-679-8215. And I expect the airport will likely provide additional information in the morning. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. 6:20 in the morning here in London. You're waking up to the news.
Okay, so I'll just go off Sky News for a minute because I want to show you. This is supposedly the official. Now, this is on X, so, you know, I'm just showing it you, but it's supposedly the official air traffic control radar of this incident. Now, I just cannot believe how this happened. Let's watch this from the beginning. When you look at this, they're just heading for each other, aren't they? Surely the helicopter must have seen the aeroplane. Surely it must have seen the aeroplane. How could it not have seen it? A great big massive aeroplane. It almost looks as if it's going straight into it. I mean, I'm not saying it was. You know, maybe it is just a terrible accident, but to me, I just don't see how a helicopter can't see a massive, great big aeroplane coming into land. You don't need air traffic control even for that, do you? Just look, well, honestly, I am literally speechless. You know, I don't like flying at all. I hate flying. I'm terrified of flying. This won't help. Normally, the only bit I like about flying is the coming down, because I was thinking, oh, it'd be over soon, but it was over, unfortunately, in a different way for these people. They're coming into land. Now, there is some talk that they had to land on a different runway. They were asked to land on a different runway to what they normally would. So, oh, Kelly, of course you are. Of course you are. Yeah, you're flying this ship. Well, do you know what? I mean, the thing is, you're more likely to have an accident, to be honest, when you're driving, aren't you? We all know that. We know the logic of it. We know the statistics. But it's difficult not to be scared of flying because you're out of control completely, aren't you? But when you look at this, if this is a genuine thing, I just cannot believe that helicopter, it almost looks like it's aiming straight for that plane. I'm not saying it was. I'm just saying, look at it. Ridiculous. I cannot believe. So let's have a look at the actual crash now. So this is what happened. Oh. Just unbelievable when you watch it. It looks like the helicopter is literally aiming straight for this plane.
What you're seeing essentially is you see how the aircraft is banking. The way you fly the approach into National Airport for runway 33, which is the shorter runway that an aircraft of this size
just flew straight into it. How can that happen? How can that possibly happen?
You're seeing essentially is you see how the aircraft is banking. The way you fly the approach into National Airport for runway 33, which is the shorter runway that an aircraft of this size would use, is you fly the approach.
Now, surely no one could have survived that either. So that was very strange. When I first started watching the news about this, they said that they'd rescued 4 people from the river. Then they changed that and said no. Well, they didn't say they haven't. They just took it back. It's very strange. They took it back. Whoever. Maybe that was just fake news. Maybe somebody jumped the gun with a news item or whatever. But yeah, initially they were saying that they'd taken 4 survivors out of the river, because I thought, oh my God, I can't believe anyone has survived that. And then the next minute they were saying, no, they're taking that back. Let's just watch this one more time. But, so the helicopter just comes along here and just flies straight into this plane.
What you're seeing essentially is you see how the aircraft is banking. The way you fly the approach into National Airport for runway 33, which is the shorter runway that an aircraft of this size would use, is you fly the approach to runway 1, which is due north pretty much. And then at a certain point, you turn off and line up on the northwesterly runway. And that aircraft was in that banking turn as it was lining up for approach for runway 33. And that is that spot where underneath is a helicopter route. And so this is the collision point, clearly is at that location along that helicopter corridor along the Potomac River.
Today, I'm also signing an executive order to.
I mean, how can that happen? How can the helicopter, honestly, helicopters coming along here for quite a length of time, isn't it? So how can it just have, I just don't see. Anyway, now then, let's have some details. So the plane was a passenger plane. There were 64 people on board, and it was coming into land. Is it Reagan International Airport there in Washington? The helicopter was a military helicopter. There were 3 military personnel on board. It was supposed to be on a training exercise. Now, and then there's talk that the aeroplane was asked to land on a different runway. And is that the reason behind it? Was the helicopter not expecting it to be in that airspace? But it just seemed to have so long. It doesn't take. It's difficult for an aeroplane to change course, isn't it? If the plane had seen the helicopter, but even I'm sure they would have had a go at changing course. But a helicopter can change its course quite quickly, can't it? Is it possible that helicopter did not see a great big massive aeroplane with all its lights on coming into land? That's what I just think, what? How is that even possible? Let's see, let's find another video of it. It just seems, how can, so of course, it's been captured on CCTV. Sorry, I was just trying to. Where is it? So let's see. Yeah, I'm sort of like. Let's have a look at the ABC News. Just seems unbelievable that it could have not. How could it not have seen?
Video from EarthCam, and you can see there off in the distance. Take a look. You see that flash in the distance right there? We'll go in a little tighter on it. You can see to the left there's a plane that looks like coming in. There's a brighter light. And right there you'll see that
Hit
horrific
straight
fireball.
for it.
And then, as Steve talked about, you can see whatever is left afterwards falling down pretty quickly. I want to bring Aaron Katersky in. He's sitting here with me.
So, I mean, I don't see really. Let's have a look at the map to see where it's happened. How can anyone have survived that? Because hopefully the aeroplane, it was coming to the end of its trip, it was landing, so it may not have had a lot of fuel on there. But at the end of the day, well, you could see that fireball, you can see it there. That is the actual moment of collision. How can anyone have survived that? And then even if they survive that, they're going to drop right into the freezing cold river. And it'd take a little while for rescue people to get there, etc. So, yeah, just awful, isn't it? Right. What was I going to show you? Oh, that's right. So let's see where this has happened. Just if, like me, you're not very much up on, obviously I've heard of Washington because that's where the White House is, but I don't really, know much about the geography of America. But there you go. So, so it's Washington is here. I do know about Maryland because that's where Rachel Marin was murdered. Unfortunately, my knowledge of geography in America is, from cases that have followed. But so here's Washington, and this is the river that they've gone into. This river, Potomac, is it called, or something like that? Yeah, the Potomac River. And apparently it's a very dangerous airport. It's known as one of the most difficult airports to negotiate. The pilots that fly into Washington Airport have to take special training courses because, of course, as well, it's, an urban area. Apparently it's a very tricky descent. It's just what they were saying on Sky News earlier. So this helicopter has just literally flown into this airplane as it's landing. And then the subsequent crash, as I say, if these poor people managed to survive the actual crash, then they were plopped into a freezing cold. Apparently it's iced over in certain parts, the river where it's happened. It's just terrible, isn't it? God rest their souls, because I can't, well, let's hope people might have survived, but can you really? Doesn't feel like people could have survived that, really, does it? As I say, if they didn't die in the crash, maybe the helicopter had the people on the helicopter, did they have the most chance of survival? I don't know. But you could see that explosion. It's a fireball. It's a fireball. So I cannot see how, unfortunately, you can see it's just awful. So, to me, I just think, how could this possibly have happened? Sometimes it's rare for planes to crash for a start. And, even I know that. I don't like flying, but flying is the safest form of travel. Even I know that. Statistically, it takes something to bring a plane out of the sky, doesn't it? Planes don't just drop out of the sky. They've got so many safety, backup engines, and it's rare. It's very, very rare. When you think about all the planes that are taking off, even at this moment, I'm talking millions of planes probably taking off all over the world and landing. It's very, very rare that there's ever an accident. But this just looks to me very odd, like that helicopter flew straight into that plane. And if it wasn't deliberate, then how could it be that it could have happened? It makes you feel really insecure, because that is one thing out of all the things you might think might happen when you're on a plane, I think something that I rarely think about, to be honest, are mid-air collisions. You know, there's things like, oh, something might go wrong with the plane, or, oh, there's all sorts of things that you might think might go wrong. But a mid-air collision really is not something that I even think about, you know, because it just seems like so weird. Anyway, let's see what Donald Duck's got to say. He's been on his Truth Social talking about it. He'll be on his way there, and you know, good. Well, he's only up the road, of course, but you know, we'll see what he's got to say about it. But he's already been on his Truth Social talking about it. So, and you know, he's perfectly right what he says. The aeroplane was on a perfect and routine line of approach to the airport. The helicopter was going straight at the aeroplane for an extended period of time. It is a clear night. The lights on the plane were blazing. Why didn't the helicopter go up or down or turn? Why didn't the control tower tell the helicopter what to do instead of asking if they saw the plane? This is a bad situation that looks like it should have been prevented. Not good. No, it's not, is it? So I'm sure Donald will be asking, one thing you can be sure of, Donald will be asking for, you know, explanations. Sorry, I'm just laughing at his profile picture there with the stars and stripes. Oh dear. I mean, he's one thing you can definitely say about Donald is he is a character. You know, he definitely is a character. So let's see, I don't think he's, so yeah, he's right. I mean, why on earth? Why on earth? I just cannot, just do not know how this happened. Literally, I am stumped. So let's just look at that. Look at this again. So this is, for those of you who haven't seen it, this is supposedly the radar, the air traffic control radar. So you've got the aeroplane coming in here and the helicopter's just aiming towards it. It's just aiming straight for it. For not just, you know, there was plenty of time for that helicopter to move away. Plenty of time. And in fact, if anything, it seems to go, you know, fly right into it. Now, I'm not saying it was deliberate, but, you know, what does that look like? This is very strange. So apparently, you know, 64 people on the aeroplane and 3 people on the helicopter, and it was a military training exercise, the helicopter, and the plane was coming in to land, but it had been asked to land at a different runway. That's the only thing that makes it look less sort of suspicious, if you like. If it had been, you know, maybe that helicopter just wasn't expecting it to be there, but it had plenty of time to move out of the way. Well, exactly. What's the point of air traffic control if they don't control the air traffic? You know, it's crazy. Anyway, let's just go back to Sky News again and see what they're saying.
Federal Aviation Authority and the National Aviation Safety Board have already arrived at the scene and commenced their investigation. They will be desperately seeking to retrieve the black box recording from those aircraft. The plane, we understand, is divided in 2, upside down in the water. The helicopter, the Black Hawk helicopter, also upside down in the water. So it's a very complex scene. So We have a recovery operation in addition to a rescue operation. We have an air investigation underway, and we have the political response as well. The president himself being briefed around the clock now in the Situation Room, where he is expressing real concern about how this was able to happen, how this helicopter found itself in the flight path is so close to Reagan National Airport. The Vice President, J.D. Vance, also saying that he's monitoring the situation and praying for all of those who were on board and their loved ones. And I think that perhaps is the greatest part of this tragedy, that they were on approach to the short runway 33 at Reagan National, coming to the end of their flight from Wichita, Kansas, and would have had people waiting for them already at that airport. And those people, of course, are now dealing with the fact that their friends and loved ones may not be coming home.
David, I wonder if you could talk me through the geography of the airport as it relates to the Capitol building, the White House. I know that after 9/11, the proximity of the airport to the Capitol and the White House meant that it was closed. And then when it reopened, new security measures were put in place, including the banning of some types of aircraft.
That's right, Kay. And you and many of our audience this morning will be familiar with the Washington Mall, where people visit the various museums and monuments, including the Capitol building, the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial. It's right at the end of that part of Washington, just behind really the Lincoln Memorial, where Reagan National.
Yeah, now the thing is, I've got to go now because I've got to get ready and I've got to take number one son to work and got a couple of classes. But I would definitely be back talking about this. Maybe we'll know a bit more by then. And don't forget, in America at the moment, it's because it's the middle of the night, isn't it? It's middle of the night. It's pitch black. It's freezing cold. And the rescue team's desperately hoping, I suppose, that they'll find somebody alive. But, you know, I would be very surprised just watching that fireball explosion. You know, don't mean to be negative because, you know, you can only hope that there may be some survivors. But it just is. You know, and the fact that it was, you know, it was the end of the flight. I always feel when I'm, you know, as I say, I don't really like flying. In fact, I don't like it at all. Though I've got better over the years. But when the plane starts coming down, I always feel so much. I don't worry about that so much because I feel like we're going in the right direction. You know, once you come to the end of the flight and you're landing, you going in the right sort of normal direction of gravity, you're heading towards the runway. You know, it's more scary to me that you would crash into the sea. Something would happen when you were over the sea and the plane couldn't land. So the fact that this has happened, I do believe, and I don't know, I'd have to look it up, but I think most accidents happen on takeoff, don't they? More than landing. So this really, it was a totally avoidable accident, whichever way you look at it. You know, it just is avoidable. It was avoidable. That helicopter was flying towards that aeroplane for quite a length of time. So I feel like that helicopter could easily, how could it not? And I can't. So there's 3 people on board that helicopter. You're telling me that not one of those 3 people saw this massive plane right in front of them. But anyway, okay, so I've got to go, but thanks for being with me, you early birds. Well, unless you're in Australia like Kelly and that. But, you know, I'm always up really early and I saw this and I like to do a video, you know, because at the moment I haven't got much time. So I try and do a video first thing in the morning. You know, I've been releasing videos. Anyway, I thought I'd just come on live for this. For those, so if you're watching on Replay Crew, this is what's going on. There's been a mid-air collision between a passenger plane with 64 people on board and a military training helicopter with 3 military personnel on board. A mid-air collision right in Washington, right near the White House, actually. So, you know, and of course, and rescue operations are going on. Okay, I'll see you later in the next video. And until then, don't forget to subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And don't forget to press notifications so that you get notifications of updates on this case. Well, it's not a case really, of this situation and any other case that we are following. Thank you. Oh, and of course, may your God go with you. Bye.